Okay, 1904. Let's try that again. 1904. Listen to me. It must be the lunch. Any further check-in? Second last call, ZS6IPS. Otherwise, I'm going to start with the net. Okay, 1905. Last call for checking this, guys. ZS6IPS standing by. Okay, nothing else heard. I think we're going to start with the net. So I'm going to kick off with the usual. Today is Sunday, the 25th of December, 2022, and the time now is 19:05. Those wishing to join this net using Zoom may do so as Zoom is now open. That was doomed for failure for sure. If you do not have the Zoom link, please contact me on WhatsApp 082-859-2684, and I'll send you the link with the greatest of pleasure. We usually begin with the amateur radio check-ins on the Rudderpoort repeater, 145.625, and after 5 minutes, we continue with the net. So greetings to one and all, and welcome to this week's net. This net is broadcast every Sunday evening at 1900 and is broadcast for the benefit of radio amateurs, disaster relief cert volunteers, and members of the general public. Everyone is welcome to join the net and to participate using the above-mentioned platforms. I'd like to remind all amateur radio listeners who have not checked in that you do not need to be a member of any group or club to check in or to use the repeater or any of the amateur radio bands. All that is required from you is that you have a valid amateur radio license issued by ICASA. The ICASA license automatically grants you the right to use any of the amateur radio bands at any time. And there is no need to ask for or be granted permission from anyone else in order to do so. I would like to encourage everyone to share the Zoom link used for the weekly net with everyone they know throughout South Africa. Doing so will help us grow the weekly net and will contribute to disseminating information as far and wide as possible. On behalf of myself and the Disaster Relief Cert directors and registered volunteers, I wish each and every one a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday for the season. Please enjoy any celebrations and holiday that you in actual fact follow through with. Okay, it's time to unpack the weekly COVID-19 figures. Globally, the reported COVID-19 figures are at 657,147,870. The ZS6IPS returning after clearing the timeout timer. Last week's figures were sitting at 653,005,330. We therefore see an increase of 4,142,540 compared to the previous week's 4,033,000. So we've gone from an average of about 3.2, 3.5 million to over 4 million a week now. The death toll globally is now standing at 6,678,700 compared to last week's total is 6,665,000, an increase of 13,305 compared to last week, 12,707, which means that this week we have an increase of 598 on the previous week. I must remind the listeners that several countries have adjusted their testing and reporting protocols, South Africa being one of them. And talking of South Africa, our figures for week 50, that's now for the week ending 22 December, we have a total of 956 new cases this week. And unfortunately, due to the reporting not being done with regards to the holiday, the deaths have not appeared on any of the documentation as at this moment. So compared to last week, we had 1,917 new cases. We actually see a decrease of 961. We're still looking at about 9.2% positivity rate compared to last week, I think, of 12%. So there is a slight decrease, but we'll have to see how that pans out over the next couple of weeks. Okay, ZS6OPS returning. Mpox has now been reported at 83,420 cases globally as at 22 December, compared to the 82,796 in the previous week. Therefore, we see an increase of 624 new cases in this week compared to the previous week's new cases increase of 202. South Africa has still not reported any new cases. Now, just a reminder that the World Health Organization has officially made an announcement that monkeypox shall now be referred to as Mpox. So if you didn't know what Mpox is, there we have it. Okay, moving on. Now, where we had the floods on the West Rand on the 9th of December 2022, this week, the 24th of December in particular, saw the worst and most gruesome day, I believe, ever experienced by a community, let alone the country, and especially for EMS and rescue personnel. At plus minus 0700 on the 24th, Saturday the 24th, a tanker carrying around 68,000 liters of liquid petroleum gas to Botswana was unable to pass safely under a bridge in Railway Street, Boksburg, literally only meters away from the Boksburg Benoni Hospital, now known as OR Tambo Hospital. For some reason, a fire started, and whilst firefighters were cooling the tanker down, it literally exploded. Now, I just want to, as a sideline comment, state that one of the first responders' voice notes that came through on our EMS group yesterday basically said, guys, this looks like a war zone. As a result of the explosion, many curious onlookers and firemen were caught up in the blast, resulting in the loss of 15 lives and 27 priority 1 patients. The total number of patients, however, that were seen by medical personnel yesterday morning now stands at 321 persons were injured in this LPG tanker blast. That includes 13 BBH staff members and 8 firefighters. 3 staff members at BBH lost their lives in this explosion. Today, the health minister reported that children, one as young as 10 years of age, and 3 staff members from Tambo Memorial Hospital were among the deceased. The health minister said one family had lost 4 relatives in the incident, while others lost visitors who had come from afar. The extent of injuries was horrendous, and many people suffered serious injury, including amputations, outside of those that lost their lives. The railway bridge has been destroyed. Several houses in the vicinity suffered structural damage, as did BBH Hospital. Boksburg Benoni Hospital is now officially closed. ZS6OPS returning. due to the amount of damage to structure, roofs that had collapsed, ceilings that had fallen in, etc., etc. And as I say, many houses were damaged, and there were several other households within a reasonable area of the explosion whose windows have been broken and destroyed, which is typical with an explosion of this size. The Tambo Memorial Hospital also suffered damage, resulting in, or at least suffered damage in the casualty department itself, which placed all ambulance calls on a permanent divert. I was just looking at some other information here that I've just received, that during the course of the events yesterday, GPG, Gauteng Provincial Government, actually did dispatch 22 ambulances, 3 response vehicles, and several search and rescue personnel to the scene, where they in actual fact assisted with the evacuation of patients out of the old BBH hospital. So on behalf of myself and the Disaster Relief CERT directors and registered volunteers, I extend our condolences to all the families who have lost loved ones. We further wish all the injured a speedy and full recovery. Where last week, or the week of the 9th, was not a good week, this week was even worse, especially being Christmas Eve. And I do want to add that looking at the images yesterday, it really and truly was horrendous. I was not on scene, but it really and truly was not a pleasant scene at all. Now, finally, in closing, I'd like to encourage everyone to register as a disaster relief CERT volunteer and to prepare and train to assist their local communities in times of disaster. And I must admit that yesterday, I think if the community as a community had a little bit more awareness, things could have been a lot different. But 321 patients is really a lot of patients from one incident. ZS6OPS returning. Okay, I'd like to thank all those who have checked in this week, as well as those who have joined on Zoom. And of course, being Christmas Day, very few people are up, and being amateur radio, even less are up and about. As the COVID-19 pandemic is still ongoing and is still infecting millions of people, please remember to physically distance yourself and to wear a mask in order to protect others, especially the elderly who could lose their lives if infected with COVID. Remember that it's always best to sanitize or wash your hands on a regular basis in any event. So let's see, are there any other late check-ins that'd like to be added to the list quickly? There's 6 OPS standing by. There we go, Mr. KBS. A little bit choppy. I'll give you a 2 out of 5 there. Yeah, a lot of flag waving, but at least you did come through. Good evening, and I trust you well. And all the other good stuff. Let's hear, is there anybody else out there? There's 6 Oscar Papa Sierra standing by. Okay, nothing else heard. Therefore, for the week moving forward, be safe, be prepared, and of course, be happy. This is ZS6OPS now released in 145.625 for general use. Cheers all.